Welcome to Wellness Wednesdays. Thank you for joining us. Here's a little bit of information about the University of Arizona Health Sciences. Tells you about all our different colleges, both in Phoenix and in Tucson. Here's pictures of our wonderful buildings. This is the Sciences Innovation Building at our main campus in Tucson, and also the Biomedical Campus up in Phoenix, which houses both the University of Arizona, Arizona State University, and Northern Arizona University. Dr. Michael Dake is our leader. He is our Senior Vice President for Health Sciences. And here are all our links to all of our social media accounts. We'd love for you to follow us, and please follow me at Medina Wildcat on Twitter. And when you do, please make sure you tag your posts with that hashtag Wellness Wednesdays AZ. So I am Anne Marie Medina, and I am the Director of Corporate and Community Relations here at the Tucson campus. I'd also like to introduce you to Caroline Berger, who serves in that position up in our Phoenix campus, and Allison Otu, who serves as our Executive Director. We'd love to hear from you, so please drop us an email. We'd love to hear what you have to say. An overview for today, we have about 20 minutes for our speaker, and then we'll have 10 minutes at the end so that you can ask questions. We will make sure and give time for you to ask all those questions. If for some reason we don't get to all of them, we will certainly answer them in a follow-up email. So at the bottom of your screen, just click on that chat box and we leave your questions in there, and I will ask our presenter those questions after she is finished. Also be on the lookout for our post-event email. We'll send you the links to all the resources that our presenter discusses, and also a link to a short 2-minute event evaluation. We do thank you in advance for completing the evaluation, and make sure you put in there what type of topics you would like to hear. We do look at those when we schedule our sessions coming up. We are recording today's session, so we'll send you the link to the recording. We'll also send you the link to all of our previous recordings in our YouTube channel, and we encourage you to share those resources with your friends and family. So please allow me to introduce our speaker today. Dr. Taylor Ryle is the interim chair of Department of Surgery at the University of Arizona College of Medicine here in Tucson. Additionally, Dr. Ryle is certified as an executive coach through the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. She applies these skills within the medical environment to create a culture in which consistently high performance is everyone's goal. By introducing and coaching faculty in the practice of mindfulness, engagement, and emotional intelligence, she assists members of the department in achieving their highest potential, and she will share those practices with us today. Welcome, Dr. Ryle.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning. Thanks for having me today. You know, even in our average year, we all face many challenges, and 2020 has certainly been a remarkable year that has challenged our well-being in so many ways. COVID-19 has challenged our businesses and our healthcare systems beyond anything we could have imagined, and it's really challenged each of us personally. Over the past year, I know that we all mourn the loss of our normal, whatever that means for us. And at the same time, we have to move forward, caring for others during this time and living our lives. And on top of that, we all have our own personal challenges that don't end because of global pandemics or other things. In 2020, I was only 3 months into being the chair of the department when COVID started. We moved into a new home in August, which is stressful even in a good year. We had wildfires threaten the homes of our faculty and most recently my own home. And my 2-year-old golden doodle, who is the center of my world, was recently ill. And this morning I got a phone call that my brother-in-law was in a serious head-on collision in New Jersey. Fortunately, he's okay. But these challenges, these personal challenges, don't end. My only relevant disclosure is that I am an executive coach, but more importantly, these concepts of mindfulness and self-awareness are ideas that have really changed the course of my life and my career over the past 6 years. And I hope in this very short 20 minutes to just walk away with some things that you're able to do right away. I want to start my talk with something that grounds me in the present every day. This is Winston. We got Winston in May of 2016, and Winston is an incredibly spoiled golden doodle who enriched my life in the most unexpected ways. One of the things I really love most about Winston is his ability to live in the moment. Last year, we took a 2-week trip to South Africa, and during this time, we took Winston to the Tucson Adventure Dog Ranch. You can't make this stuff up. It's a place, and they go off leash hiking and play basically all day. And every day at the end of the day, they send hundreds of pictures of Winston playing with his dog friends. And as we were coming back from South Africa, I asked Charlie if he thought Winston would be sad to leave the dog ranch. And then I realized he's not sad. Like, Winston just lives in the moment. So he wakes up at the dog ranch and he's super excited to be there, swimming and running and playing. And then when I picked him up, he was literally so excited to see me that his whole body was wagging. He doesn't anticipate, he doesn't regret or miss things, and he just lives in the moment. And he every day helps me live in the moment. He demands my presence, and he really relaxes my mind. In The Empire Strikes Back, Yoda says all of his life he has looked away to the future, to the horizon, never his mind on where he was. And he's referring to Luke Skywalker, and his words are an important reminder for all of us. I think with the crazy lives that we all live, there are so many things that block our ability to be mindful or to be in the present. So I'm in the operating room and I'm worried about being late to a meeting. I'm in a meeting and I'm worried about a sick patient. I'm with a sick patient and I'm guilty that I'm late to meet my husband for dinner. And I used to be really proud of my ability to multitask, but I've learned that when I do that, actually nothing really gets the attention it needs and I'm inefficient. For example, I go to dinner with my husband and spend the whole time checking my email and texting. I think in 2020, we all have this society-induced ADHD, and we don't know how to do nothing or how to be alone with our thoughts. And we're always worried about what else we're supposed to be doing. Mindfulness is defined as a non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. And it really means training our minds to be aware of each moment and also disengaging ourselves from our strong attachment to our beliefs and our thoughts and our emotions. And when we can do this, we develop a greater sense of emotional balance and well-being. The good news is that mindfulness can be learned and practiced. The bad news is that, while it's conceptually easy, it's incredibly difficult. And when you start to practice mindfulness, you'll be shocked at how much noise is in your mind every day. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl says that the only thing that cannot be taken away from us is our ability to choose how we respond to our circumstances. And he talks about this elusive space between stimulus and response. And what I found over the years is that the practice of mindfulness helps us find that space. It helps us find that space between stimulus and response and choose in each moment how we want to show up to any given situation that we are faced with. And this is so important because doing so really helps us develop resilience, which is defined as the ability to thrive in spite of adversity. Our split-second assessment in that elusive space between the stimulus and the response allows us to see a bigger picture of what's going on, and it allows us to reframe stressors. So instead of us seeing problems and threats, we see solutions and challenges and opportunities. When we can reframe that, we can choose to lean in. We can choose to engage and explore instead of fight and flee, and it helps us respond to the stress that's inherent in every single one of our lives. We've also been taught to view stress as bad, but those of us who are athletes know that stress is necessary for growth and improvement. When athletes train, they stress and break down their muscles, and as those muscles recover, they adapt and they get stronger. And we've all experienced good stress. For me, it's things like preparing for a conference or learning from a passionate surgeon who pushes me to be my best. And these experiences enhance our memory and learning. They stimulate the mastery of new skills and behaviors, and they're essential for our growth and development. While we need some level of stress to perform optimally, constant stress without recovery and time for adaptation or extreme stress really limits our ability to function optimally. When this stress is chronic, for example, with a constant stress inherent in what I do every day and in my circumstances, it can be unhealthy. And I used to tell people that this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. But I've kind of come to realize that my life is really a series of sprints of all different lengths. And these are stressors that we continually learn from and adapt to. But when those stressors are constant without time for me to recover and adapt, I break down or I burn out. Stress stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. It causes a surge of stress hormones like epinephrine and cortisol in the blood, which can negatively affect the body. For example, too much epinephrine increases the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Too much cortisol can increase your blood sugar levels and suppress your immune system. Eventually, these chronic spikes in stress hormones lead to things like increased blood pressure, increased cholesterol levels, disrupting our immunity, disrupting our energy levels and our sleep. When the body and mind are relaxed, however, whether through meditation practice or other techniques, the parasympathetic nervous system is stimulated and it causes our body to stop releasing stress hormones. And people who meditate regularly or can reduce their stress regularly have learned to condition their body to relax on demand and can more effectively manage stress. Studies show that in just 3 weeks, meditation can reduce aggression and irritability. It can also increase compassion and other positive emotions. It changes our perception of stress. It allows us to lean in and engage and explore instead of fight and flee, like I was talking about earlier, and to respond effectively to the stress inherent in our lives. Meditation can also be useful in reducing pain and the perception of pain. I underwent back surgery in 2017, and it was very helpful for me both before and after my back surgery, and even now. And here's just some practical tips and some of my personal experience. So when I first tried to meditate, I was amazed at how hard it was for me to quiet my mind and focus for even 10 minutes. Headspace is a wonderful app that you can get on your phone. During COVID, they've had some free trials of Headspace and different things, but the app offers guided meditation and it teaches you to let your thoughts come and go without judgment. I like it because he kind of describes your thoughts as like cars going by. He says, you want to kind of watch the cars go by, but you don't want to chase the cars. And for those of you who are Peloton members, they also have guided meditations, and there are many other apps that can provide this, but it's really useful if you've never meditated before. And these can be short. They can be 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I am inherently impatient. I have many virtues, but patience is definitely not one of them. And I sometimes struggle with seated or guided meditation. And so I actually do what I consider a lot of active meditation. So if I'm out running, I focus on my footsteps and I let my thoughts pass by without chasing them. When I eat, I stop and taste my food, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes. And when I walk from my office to the operating room, I stop, I look at the people around me, I smile and I say hello. And these things don't add time to my day, but they actually create space and they allow me to be more effective at what I'm doing. When I was using the Headspace app, one of the sessions actually challenged me to do this exercise, and I'll challenge you to do the same. So it challenged me to notice every time I went from sitting to standing or standing to sitting in the course of a day. I'm a surgeon, I'm pretty competitive, and I thought, I'm going to hit this out of the park. And I have to tell you, I think it was 3 days before I noticed even once. So try this exercise. It's incredibly difficult. In his book, The Happiness Advantage, Sean Achor says that if you know everything about somebody's external world, you can only predict 10% of their long-term happiness. The other 90% is predicted by the way their brain processes the world. He also presents research that demonstrates that only 25% of job successes are predicted by intelligence or IQ. 75% are predicted by the way we see the world, our optimism, our social support, our ability to see stress as a challenge and not a threat. And if we can change the way we process that world, we can also change our results. We can retrain our brains to focus on the positive and to reframe stress as positive with a few simple activities. And I'll share some of those with you. So I'm sure, like everyone on this webinar, your days are like a house of cards. For me, if one thing goes wrong, the whole thing falls apart. And it's really easy for me to come home at the end of my day and tell Charlie that I didn't get anything done. But that's actually not true. So I may not have gotten done what I planned to do, but taking care of a sick patient or helping one of my faculty members in need is critically important. And this is an exercise that I do every night and I recommend. I focus on what I did rather than what I didn't do. So I just, every week for a few weeks a night, write down the things you accomplished. It keeps you focused on the positive and not on the negative. Likewise, a conscious expression of gratitude can change your perspective. So not every day is good, but good things happen every day. And a gratitude journal can help you focus on the many little good things in every day that otherwise get lost in the noise. So that beautiful sunset in the morning, you know, waking up with a dog just laying next to me and kissing my face, ice cream, whatever. But just noticing those little things that otherwise pass us by. And that practice of gratitude can increase your happiness levels by about 25% with just a few minutes a day writing in a gratitude journal. And that effect can be long lasting. Sean Aker also talks about random or intentional acts of kindness. And I practice both, but I've really been focused lately on intentional acts of kindness. In my world, people will often fire off an email when they're angry or upset, but how often do we really thank somebody who's been incredibly helpful? And so every day I try to recognize when people help and when people are kind. It makes a difference both for the giver and the receiver. It's just another exercise that I want to leave you with today. Many of you have probably heard about imposter syndrome. One area where being mindful has really helped me was changing some negative self-talk that really impacts my confidence and frankly it impacts how I show up in different situations. When I first started this process and becoming an executive coach, I had a lot of negative thoughts about myself all the time. So if I was working with a sports psychologist at the time, and he recommended this exercise. He had me wear a rubber bracelet like this one. And every time I had a negative thought about myself, he had me move the bracelet to the other wrist and change the thought. And it was amazing to see how often I had these negative thoughts. I actually told my husband that I needed to start having negative thoughts in pairs so that I didn't have to take off the bracelet and move it. I broke 3 bracelets in the first 2 weeks. And just for example, so say that I have a bad interaction with my boss and my message to myself is something subconsciously, probably initially, but something like he hates me, I'm a terrible leader, you know, I shouldn't be in this position. And if I can notice that, I can change that, saying I'm a good leader, you know, my department respects me. He may not like what I did in this situation, but it doesn't mean I'm a terrible leader. And then it allows me to lean in, to understand the situation and to continually get better. But this exercise has been something that's really useful and something that I see a lot around me in medicine. And when I work with clients, it's something I often recommend. In summary, the good news is that we can train our minds. I offer just some small suggestions here, and there's tons more things that you can do. If you haven't done this, guided meditation with different apps is useful. Like I said, I do a lot of active meditation in my day-to-day life and then focusing on the positive things in my life. That training in mindfulness, these little things can help us change our perception of the stress inherent in our environment. It improves our resilience. It helps us respond more effectively to the stress, and it helps us optimize our performance. And so I would challenge you to channel your inner Winston. Thank you. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rao. That was a wonderful presentation. I think we all need a Winston in our life.
Everybody needs a Winston.
Yeah, we do have an upcoming session with the Humane Society, and they're going to be talking about the importance of pets and what we can learn from them. And I think, you know, the living in the moment is really important because so many of us, like you said, we used to say that, you know, we would be successful if we could multitask, and women, of course, are supposedly much better at doing that, but it's not always the best thing that we can do. And so I appreciate you pointing that out, that we need to live in the moment and really think about what we're doing when we're doing it. So let's get to the questions here. So are there any video medications you can recommend? And I'm not sure what they mean by video medications.
Yeah, so I'd love to understand more about, what they mean by that. If they're talking about apps or places to do this, I recommended some of them. But there's, even if you search like on your iPhone for mindfulness meditation, you'll come up with probably 50 apps, and you have to use them. Some work really well for you and others don't.
There's one of them. We had Dr. Judith Gordon on a couple of weeks ago, and she just released her new app, See Me Serene, which is a free guided meditation app. And that one is available in both the App Store and Google Play. So I've used it. She's even doing a research study where people can sign up to be part of the research of how that impacts your mental health, well-being. So that's a good free one also. There's another one here. In what ways do you inspire your patients to practice mindfulness?
So this is incredibly important for patients and something I talk to them about all the time. I deal with a lot of patients who have cancer, and, really helping them sort of live in the moment, appreciate those small things. I have a lot of patients who are always just very afraid of their cancer coming back, for instance. And these kind of exercises are very helpful. I've actually worked with a woman who runs a company called Well Beyond Ordinary, but she actually has a coaching program like for cancer survivors and different things. I think this can be very helpful in helping patients decide how they want to respond to their illness and how they want to engage and lean in versus flee or give up. And I think it really makes a difference in outcomes for patients.
Wonderful. We have a question from one of the PhD students. It says, are you familiar with the MBSR training and the work of Jean Kabat-Zinn? It's mindfulness-based stress reduction. And if so, what are your thoughts?
So yes, I am. I have done that training. I have also worked with a woman in San Francisco. Her name is Carter LaBarris. And she has done a mindfulness-based stress reduction intervention for surgical residents. So she's abbreviated the training and kind of adapted it to the surgical environment, but there's a lot of evidence that it helps them deal better with the stress inherent in surgical training. It does require a significant time commitment, but it's very, very powerful. If anybody's interested, you can just look up exactly that, John Kabat-Zinn, and you'll find a ton of information on it.
We'll provide that information in the follow-up email. And she did mention that her experience dealing with PTSD from war has been very positive by using that. So that's wonderful to hear. One question was, how can you help your spouse or your significant other live in the moment?
So one thing I would say is that you can lead by example. I think you can want other people to change, but the only thing you really have control of is yourself. But you can engage that spouse in these exercises, so just stopping and pausing and showing them the sunset, or doing that gratitude exercise with them. Really sort of bringing them in and helping them, start to scan their lives for the positive. Very much depends on how open people are. But what I find is that when I am different, when I engage with the world differently, when I'm more in the present, people actually respond to that.
It's interesting. My husband and I often have this conversation about how much time do we spend looking at our phone while we're home together. And I don't think we're sometimes aware of it. So one time I did time him, and then I showed him how long he was on there, and he wasn't aware of it. And so just that awareness has helped him to be able to set that down and spend time being in the moment. So another question was,
I have texted my husband from my house. So
what was your introduction to mindfulness like?
So that's a very interesting question. I came to executive coaching and mindfulness really after my own personal experience with burnout in my surgical career. An experience that really left me ready to leave medicine and surgery and my life as I know it. And, if you say mindfulness or meditation to a surgeon, like you don't get a great response to that right away. And I was very skeptical. I was very skeptical when I worked with a sports psychologist that said, hey, you can create that life that you want. And just changing that perception changes things. And I kind of came along kicking and screaming a little bit, but as I started to change, my perception changed. I couldn't quite incorporate it all right away. And when I did my coach training, that was incredibly helpful because yes, I learned to be an executive coach, but I learned so much about myself and how to do that. So you're definitely talking to somebody who was very skeptical of these ideas and has really seen the positive impact that it's had on my life and all parts of it.
You mentioned that you were sort of resistant to it at first, and I know that you use it with your staff. How have they been responding, and what has been the outcome that you have seen from them using these practices?
It's interesting. I try to introduce these ideas again in a way of like leading by example and offering these things. I started where I felt like people were going to most respond. So residents in 2020, my junior people are really excited about living balanced lives and different kind of lives as a surgeon. And I actually floated the idea by them, and we started a well-being and resiliency program for our residents. They've been quite engaged in the curriculum, and we change it, we add stuff to it. They're like, hey, this would be really useful when we have things that come up that are social issues that we want to address. We bring that there, and they've been quite responsive. And I know it's good because after we were doing it for a little while, some of the faculty come and they say, hey, we should do that. I'm like, oh, hey, that's a great idea, right? So you sort of get people engaged and they see the benefit. And again, I try not to say like, hey, this is some new thing we're doing. Then it's like I just try to be the way that we are. This is how the department runs, that we value people's wellness. We value the whole surgeon, all those different pieces.
Great. Well, there was a lot of wonderful comments, a lot of thank yous, and saying that the information was very actionable and helpful, and thank you for the word. So we really appreciate you spending your time with us today. We know how busy you are, and we appreciate everything that you're doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So let me go back to sharing my screen. And again, thank you, Dr. Ryle, for that. We will follow up with all of that information in the follow-up email, so make sure you look out for that. So next week, don't forget to sign up for our session and to pass this. We've got Molly Burke from the Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine, who's going to discuss their app, My Wellness Coach, and it's a free app also. It helps individuals focus on their 7 core areas of health. I also use this app. It is wonderful. And so I encourage you to look for that. And until then, on behalf of all of us at the University of Arizona Health Sciences, be safe, be well, and of course, bear down and mask up. Take care, everyone. See you next week.